24 DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Google and Alexa home devices. You've got the app. Video stream also up and rolling on this Tuesday morning. Good to be back. And well, if you had some time off as well, hopefully it's good to be back for you as well. But appreciate you making us part of your starts on this Tuesday morning. We got lots to catch up on here. So what do we got on the rundown? What do we got on the good old game plan here for us this morning? Well, I know it is Tuesday, but since we were off yesterday, let's chat a little green and gold coming up here. Packers win and in on Sunday against the Bears. I'll be there. Anybody else going to be at the game? I'm going to be over there. So, but nonetheless, we'll kind of take a look at that and look back at Sunday's game and such. Packers. How many of you thought maybe they'd be in this position at this point in time, winning in, controlling their destiny? Probably not a whole lot. Be honest with yourselves, right? Be a little honest with yourselves. But nonetheless, let's talk a little green and gold coming up here in just a little bit as we get things rolling here for us. We're going to talk some college football, Badger football falling yesterday late, losing their lead against LSU and losing the ReliaQuest Bowl to LSU late in the final minutes there. We'll talk some more Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up at about 8:20 this morning, recapping the Badger football season, looking ahead to what's next. Say anything? I know that I've seen some people chat, and I kind of wondered the same thing too. It's like, where was this passing game maybe earlier in the season, right? Where was this passing game a little bit earlier in the season? Tanner Mordecai throwing the ball all over the place yesterday, but nonetheless, Badger football team falling. But college football playoff last night was pretty entertaining. Michigan and Alabama going to overtime, and Michigan winning it in overtime. And then late last night, Texas not able to punch it in, and Washington gets the victory. So for the national championship, it will be Michigan versus Washington. But those playoff games lived up to a lot of the talk out there. And I know a lot of people say college football committee got it right. We talked about it afterwards after they made that selection. I know FSU, Florida State, they got dominated by Georgia. A lot of people opted out for Florida State and such, but it was a business decision. They, when it comes to picking out those final four, and I think the college football playoff committee is probably patting themselves on the back right now because those games turned out to be some pretty solid, entertaining games over there. So, but we got the matchup. It's all set in stone here. Michigan taking on Washington next Monday. That always kind of creeps up. It always is like, yeah, that's already next week. I always feel like the Monday when we get there, it's like, oh yeah, national championship. I got that going on. And I know, in the past it used to be first weekend of the NFL playoffs, wild card and such, but now it's, it's right after the final week of the regular season. So, but speaking of Badgers, Badger Hoops team is going to be beginning their full slate of Big Ten basketball games tonight. And they're going up against the Hawkeyes of Iowa. Going up against the Hawkeyes of Iowa tonight at 6 p.m. Badgers didn't play this past week, but moved up to number 21 in the rankings. So number 21, Badger basketball. Kind of this is how I view like the second half of this season for college basketball. Now it kind of really kicks into gear. You get more conference games and you really kind of get it into full gear here too. So we'll talk about that game tonight with RJ again coming up at about 8:20, 8:25 here this morning. So we'll hit that up. We got some Bucks picking up the win last night against the Indiana Pacers to improve to 24. Or excuse me, the Bucks fell last night to the Indiana Pacers. to drop to 24-9 on the season. 122 to 113 victory for the Pacers. But when you look at this Bucks team right now, I know a lot of talk in the last week or so. Everybody's saying it's clearly evident that Boston is the number one team in all the land, in all the NBA right now. And they are 2.5 games up on Milwaukee. They're riding a 6-game winning streak. Boston, that is 9-1 in their last 10. Philadelphia behind Milwaukee, too. 1.5 games over there. Trade deadline. Now, maybe we kind of take a look at that when it gets to next month. I know we got a little over a month to go here. Not too much because it's February 8th, so month and some change here. But we saw the Knicks already making some moves. So if the Celtics are clearly the best team, as a lot of people out there say they are in the NBA, what do the Bucks have to do? Do they have to do anything by the trade deadline to maybe become the best team or help them make a deep run into the postseason? Or maybe it's just straight up, this is a team that kind of has their eyes on in the postseason. They don't need to make a whole bunch of moves and such over there. Maybe one of those moves potentially for the Bucks could be a move that just is a move that they don't necessarily have to trade anybody. It's just getting Jay Crowder back, from his surgery, getting him healthy and getting him back. Because at the beginning of the year, dude was getting pretty solid minutes coming off the bench. He was one of the main guys. Him and Portis coming off the bench, definitely getting a lot more playing time than he was last year under Mike Budenholzer when they make that trade. So, but nonetheless, Bucks next game be coming up on Thursday nights, as they will take on the. No, that's not right. That schedule's wrong on here too. They're going up against Indiana on Wednesday. That schedule's wrong that I have up here. My bad. But yeah, they got the Pacers again coming up. Man, a lot of games. I think they're going to be done going up against the Pacers this year too. Let me look at it. Yeah, they got the Pacers Wednesday, then San Antonio, Houston. I think they're done against the Pacers, which is kind of a downer because no, they got another one up there, it looks like, too. So, well, we got that. Kind of hope that develops into a little bit of a rivalry there. And you got Tyrese Halliburton there, Wisconsin kid and such. But, we'll chat some Bucks and recap the last couple of games here with Milwaukee. It is a Rays place. What's your beef? So, what's your beef? You got any beef after the new year, heading into the new year, heading after the holidays and such? Hit us up with your texts. What is your beef? 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. Hit us up with the text. Let's have a little fun conversation coming up here too. With it being the new year, the new sports year too. What are some of your sports-related New Year's goals, or what should there be? What if you were maybe kind of do it this way? If you were the Packers general manager and Brian Gutekunst, your New Year's resolutions, your 2024 resolutions for your Packers team, what would they be? If you were Matt Arnold, general manager for the Milwaukee Brewers, your New Year's resolutions, or John Horst for the Bucks. Maybe it is related to that trade deadline and such. What would be your sports New Year's resolutions? Let's get a good group, and then we'll hit that up. Well, you could text me throughout the morning here, but think about that for a little bit, because everybody's got their New Year's resolution. Oh, I shouldn't say everybody, because I don't have any. I don't get into that whole sort of thing. But if you were a general manager, maybe kind of running the show, running the team, and you had, all right, this is my goal for 2024 for this team. This is my goal. What would it be? What would it be? All right. Think about that for a little bit. Hit me up with those texts. Okay. 715-830-1912. Or hit me up on Twitter at DANKASPER. Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. All right. Or on the video stream. You can do it up over there too if you'd like. So, but hey, let's get things going here. We're entering the final week of the NFL season, regular season. Final week of the regular season. And we've got, hey, Green Bay still in it. Still in it. The waves, the rides of emotions throughout this season. Going back to September 10th, the opener against Chicago. After that, people pumped, taking down the Bears, Bears fans. Bears thought they were going to, finally beat Green Bay. Nope, Green Bay beat them, and a lot of excitement. Then Green Bay falls to Atlanta in that, late in the game. Then they make the epic comeback against New Orleans. And then that ugly stretch of losses to Detroit, Raiders, Denver, and Minnesota. End of September throughout the whole month of October. Then kind of, got the Rams there, but backup quarterback Brad Rippon, but they still got the W. Then again, Pittsburgh reminded of us a lot of what was going on in October. Then the high wave of beating the Chargers, beating the Lions on Thanksgiving, beating the Chiefs. Riding high, feeling good, feeling confident about your team. You had national peeps saying this is a team you don't want to face in the postseason. And then it kind of came tumbling down after that. Loss against Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, and the Giants. Loss against Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, perfect quarterback rating. Barely escaping against Carolina, the lowly Panthers. And then they take it to Minnesota and their quarterback situation. I know it was a backup quarterback, but what's one thing I think a lot of us would be saying or have been saying for not only this year, but maybe for the last couple of years? Packers tend to play down to the competition at times. Kind of look at Carolina maybe a little bit, that collapse there. Green Bay didn't play down to the competition against Minnesota. I think we could say that. I know they're messed up at their quarterback position, but they at least didn't play down to that competition. And now, Chicago. We know the Bears would love nothing more. It's Bears week. It's officially Bears week. We know the Bears would love nothing more than to end Green Bay's hopes of going into the postseason, ending their season, going into Lambeau, and picking up the W. It's like same, setting up for the same thing as last year. Winning in Lambeau, right? Lions played spoilers last year. Can the Bears do it again this year? Bears, let's face it, Bears playing better. They're playing some solid football. I don't think anybody. I know Green Bay is not going to be overlooking the Bears, but I don't think fans should be overlooking the Bears over here too. This isn't going to be a pushover type of game. I feel like I don't feel like that's going to be the case here. But win and in, you control your destiny heading into the final week of the regular season. Of all the waves of emotions and the ups and downs of this very interesting season, we're into the final week with a game that matters, with a game that still matters. Win and in. And I'm sure a lot of us they get in, they're probably going to lose the first round. Yep. I'd probably pick them to lose, whether it's against, if they're the 7 seed, they'll be going up against the 2, Dallas, Detroit, potentially. Don't know if Philly could fit. Yeah, Philly could potentially, I think, still get in there, but they need some help, obviously. If they're the 6, it could be, those same teams over there too. But for this young team and that, for all the ups and downs and for how bad the defense has played, here we are, 8-8, matching the same amount of wins as last year. This offense has been really fun to watch. And there was a couple things that I want to hit up on Sunday's game and kind of get your thoughts on. And I'll tell you that right now, and then we'll get into the breaks and give you some time. But, Jordan Love getting a lot of talk here, and rightfully so. But there was some plays from Jordan Love that, watching that game on Sunday, I was like, I don't think Aaron does that. And I'm not trying to pick on Aaron. I'm not trying to pile on Aaron. Aaron is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. One of the best quarterbacks of all time. But there was some throws, some plays that Love made on Sunday that I don't know if Aaron necessarily makes in his final couple years in Green Bay. And a lot of that was there was one throw to Jones. Love drops back, kind of climbs the pocket a little bit, feeling the pressure. He's still looking downfield, realizes, hey, nothing's there, takes the check down to Jones. Jones scampers, picks up the first down. And he did that a couple times, whether it was to Tucker Kraft or whatever. And I immediately thought, does Aaron necessarily make those sorts? Because that was one of our things too. Is like Aaron sometimes maybe gets a little too aggressive, still looks for the big play down the field, right? Trying to throw deep, trying to get that big play instead of maybe just sometimes taking what's given to him. So I was kind of thinking this, and this maybe is a conversation for a little bit later on after the season and such. But you look at this offense and you look at some of the numbers that this offense has been putting up this year. Jordan Love, 30 touchdown passes, 3,800 passing yards. And you finally had, so I mean, those are solid numbers, right? Those are pretty darn good numbers for Love. He's got his completion up to 63%. His quarterback rating's a 93.8. 30 touchdowns, 11 picks. Not bad for a first year starter. The thing is, Green Bay finally got, it took week 17, finally got their first 100-yard receiver in a game. And it was Bo Melton. Not to pick on Bo Melton, but it was Bo Melton that finally did it. And obviously a lot of it was because of that last play to Sean Clifford. I understand that. But Jordan Love has just been continuing to spread this offense, in the passing game has been continuing to spread this ball around and spreading the riches. I mean, Jaden Reed, 681 yards, is leading the team. Romeo Dobbs, 674. Dontavian Wicks, 520. Christian Watson has been missing a ton of games, 422. I mean, he's just spreading this ball around. And, I was thinking about this too, was all the talk about, and again, I'm not trying to pile on Aaron or anything, but all the talk about trust. When we talked about Aaron, it was trust. Got to earn that trust before he really kind of, will target you a lot. Got to earn that trust. Kind of have to work your way through the system, right? And you look at this year, you got a rookie wide receiver leading the team in yards. Another rookie wide receiver, third in receiving yards. Your rookie tight ends, your two rookie tight ends are also up there. Bo Melton, a practice squad kid, last year was a 2022 6th, 7th round pick. But you got these rookies that are kind of leading the way. Jordan Love, I mean, that whole trust issue was like, boy, you can win with some rookies. You could put up some good points with the rookies. You could put up some good numbers. I mean, for crying out loud. And I think that's a shout out to Matt LaFleur and the offensive play designs that we've seen these last couple weeks, or we've seen at different points in this season. That's what I'm excited about with this offense as they continue to grow all these youngsters together. But hey, let's talk some more football. All right, let's get things going here. We'll take a quick break and get things going on the leadoff. Entering the final week of the regular season, winning in. It is officially Bears week, people. Let's talk some football after these quick words. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning. Got a couple texts to get to here. Richie actually texting and tweeting over here. Richie with a quick text. My Reed jersey is looking better and better with surpassing Sterling's rookie number. P.S. Are you headed to Green Bay this weekend to buy that house? I wish, man. I wish, but no, not for the house there. Also say Tucker Kraft is the blue collar hero that the Packers deserve. GPG. Go Pack go. G-Man got the Packers back. When you go to the game Sunday, the Pack will win 24-10. P.S. Michigan and Washington is going to be a great game, and Bucky will win tonight in the Bucks in 6 for the NBA title. Go Pack go. G-Man 98 after the game that you went to, the Packer in the playoffs. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. There you have it. How are you? Got to be feeling pretty good about the position that we're in right now, don't you? I mean, come on, right? With Green Bay there, I know you got some maybe aren't. Like, yeah, well, they're gonna lose in the postseason and such, but yeah, that probably will be. That'll probably be the case, but still a fan. Got to cheer for them to. You don't want the Bears to come into Lambeau and take them down, right? You don't want the Bears to do that. So, but heading into this final week and such, and kind of, I don't necessarily want to do a whole look back at the season yet because it's not over. I mean, we got a big game coming up on Sunday afternoon. Take care of business and try to punch our ticket into the postseason there. But when you look at how this season has gone so far, obviously the defense has probably been the biggest disappointment of everything. I mean, when you look at the preseason expectations, when you look at the goals, I mean, you even had Murphy, the president, saying, yeah, defense is going to have to carry us first few weeks, yada, yada, yada. We don't need to rehash all that, but that has obviously been the biggest disappointment and failure of this season. But with all the question marks surrounding the youth on offense and the question marks surrounding the quarterback play, what type of quarterback is Jordan Love going to be? Can he be the guy? Is he going to be the guy? And even what was it, a couple months ago after when there was 10, I think it was the bye week when Goody had his one and lone press conference, Brian Gutekunst, Packers general manager, and talking about Love, he's like, these are big 10 games to go here for Love. And kind of gave the impression that not ready to say he's the guy. I mean, he was obviously hoping he was the guy because he's the one who drafted him, traded up to get him and such, and all that fun stuff. But looking at it now, 30 touchdown passes. Got a few of them rushing as well. 11 picks, 3,800 passing yards. We can go through the comparisons with Rodgers. Everybody's done that at this point in time after 16 games and compared them and how eerily similar they are. We don't need to redo all that. But considering that we had question marks, we just didn't know. We didn't know about these young guys. The tight ends and this Jaden Reed character. And, okay, Dontavian Wicks is a 5th-round pick and all that sort of stuff. Don't want to grade it yet, but, I mean, the offense, for how well it's played, and, I get it the last couple weeks, and it's kind of been an EKG. It's been up and down. It's been some waves. But overall, from the inexperience, from the youth on the offense, has the offense kind of surpassed some of your expectations? And I thought Collinsworth on Sunday night's game made a good point too. We all thought it was just going to be run heavy, especially this year, especially maybe in the beginning part of the season. It was going to be a run heavy team, very focused on running the ball. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, kind of maybe similar to last year when, Aaron even went out there and said, yeah, we got to get the ball to 28s and 33 as many times as possible. But it kind of got derailed with Aaron Jones getting hurt after, week 1. Kind of got thrown up in the air there. A.J. Dillon was off to a slow start. But now, training camp, preseason, even the beginning part of this year, looking at this offense, I feel really good about the future of this offense. And I know the season's not over with and such, but I feel like I'm pumped. I'll be honest with you, I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they can do. Well, how they can continue to grow. I mean, it's almost like every week it's like who's going to be the next guy that's just going to pop up and 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 be the dude. It was Bo Melton on Sunday. It was Jade Reed the first half of that game though. But looking at these guys and looking at these tight and I really appreciate how Love goes out there and I hope this is something that he can continue, but just gives or go or attacks what the defense gives him and such. I mean, he just looks so poised. He didn't look flabbergasted or anything in that game. Guy was he looked like a dude. He looked like the man on Sunday. And being able to just spread the ball around, doesn't care about who's getting the amount of touches and such. He's just giving the ball to the guy who's open. And I think, at least in my opinion, one of the biggest question marks that were at the beginning of the season was the deep ball, was the accuracy on the deep ball. And I think that's gotten better throughout the season. I think we've seen improvement from there. Has it been perfect? No. Has his footwork been absolutely awesome every single time? No, it hasn't. But you're seeing this improvement and you're seeing the results in this improvement. And this team just, I don't know. It's a fun group. It's a frustrating group to watch a lot, especially when it's on the defensive side. But this offense, man, it's fun to watch. And this is the offense, I think. Now, I mean, Aaron Jones, I want him back. I know I don't know if they're going to bring him back because of contract numbers and cap hits and whatever. But if they can figure out a way to get Aaron Jones back, I want Aaron Jones back because they don't have another guy that can kind of replace him and that sort of stuff. But this right now, like what we saw on Sunday was kind of the offense that I think we were all hoping to see from the last couple years with, Matt LaFleur coming in, bringing in that Shanahan style of offense. This is what we wanted to see, spreading the ball around, getting a bunch of guys involved in the passing game, utilizing the running game. Back-to-back weeks now, Aaron Jones has ran the ball over 100 yards. It's complementary. It's very complementary football on the offensive side. And I was really kind of watching on Sunday too, kind of the chess match between Brian Flores and Matt LaFleur. And it just seemed like Matt LaFleur was one step ahead. It was kind of the same way against Kansas City. It was like one step ahead a little bit. And obviously, followed up after that Giants game and Jordan Love struggled. The offense struggled. It hasn't been perfect by any means, through long stretches of this season. But you're seeing some really, really awesome glimpses of the potential of what this offense can continue to grow. And that's what's exciting for me is to see this offense. I think the sky's the limit. Now, I think, not to get too far in the weeds, not to get too far ahead and, get into draft talk or anything like that. But I do think one area that they're probably going to address is going to be a running back. Again, I would love Aaron Jones is one of my favorite players of all time. And I think when he's healthy, he still shows what he can do. That guy has just been getting beat up a lot this year. I mean, he's a smaller guy, and he's been taking some tough hits this year. If they could figure out a way to bring him back, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. I think they do need to kind of look at maybe getting another type of running back like his skill set in here, but that's a topic for another day here. But I think the sky's the limit for this offense going forward, going into next year. Now, I'm going to ask Dr. Crow this on Friday if we got him on. I know they also mentioned in the telecast, I think it was Tarico, when they're talking about Christian Watson there a little bit. And they said that they're going to, I can't remember if he said it was LaFleur or somebody told him that they're going to dedicate a lot of time in the off season to trying to figure out his hamstring issue. Now, I want to talk to Dr. Crow about that and kind of get an expert's opinion, like what can they actually figure out? And, they could do all these different tests and all that sort of stuff. But, you add in a Christian Watson element to this offense, and we saw what he could do. We saw that stretch of games before he got hurt in that Kansas City game, what he was doing, what that element that he could provide within this offense. And we saw it last year too on that run. We know what he could do when he's healthy and he's playing really good football. But that's just going to be the question mark surrounding him going forward. But you look at these receivers and you look at the different kind of skill sets that they kind of provide. Watson's the bigger, deep threat receiver, speed. Jaden Reed's a guy, slot, has a lot of experience playing on the outside, though, from his college days, too. You can line him up in the backfield. They've used him so many different ways. Romeo Dobbs seems just like a possession type receiver. Reminds me a little bit of like a Greg Jennings type of receiver. Dontavian Wicks, guy who just finds the holes across the middle of the field. I mean, to go into this game, and I know it's Minnesota. It's not like you're going up against, the best defense, and it's not like going up against the Ravens or the 49ers or anything like that. But when you go into a game without Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Jane Reed misses the half, and you got guys that are stepping up, and no Luke Musgrave obviously again this week, and you got guys stepping up and just taking care of business in that offense game. That's what this offense is supposed to be doing. That's what this offense is designed for. Getting a bunch of guys involved and still being able to move the ball and still being able to score a bunch of points, playing within the system, playing within the offense. And I think what we've seen so far from this growth from this offense, to see these young guys stepping up, I'll be honest with you, it made me kind of question, like, all right, did Aaron kind of hold the offense back a little bit? The whole trust thing. Now, again, I'm not trying to pile on Rodgers, or it's easy to kind of hindsight 2020, point the finger and that sort of stuff. Aaron's one of my favorite players of all time. But you look at how these guys have been growing, it's like, man, they're balling out this year. And I think, one guy you got to give a lot of credit to that you're not hearing a lot talked about, maybe more so in NFL circles, but is the wide receivers coach for Green Bay, Jason Vrabel. The job that he has done with these young guys, I think it's been pretty awesome. He's been doing a wide receivers coach since 2020. And, got a little bit with Devontae there. I think he definitely helped the growth of Alan Lazard. But now the work that he's been doing with these young guys, I mean, you open up the season, all offseason, your veterans are second-year guys. I'm sure there was probably, a lot of frustration, maybe pulling out the hair, maybe you got a little gray, stress out. But the job that he has done with this young wide receiving group, it needs to be recognized. It needs to be recognized for how awesome of a job he's been doing. Now, I hope he stays with Green Bay. Again, I don't know what the NFL coaching circles or talk out there is. I'm sure there's other teams that have taken notice. Obviously, I'm talking about offensive coordinator positions or anything like that. But you got to give a credit. You got to give some credit to Jason Vrabel, the wide receivers coach for Green Bay, and the job that he has done with those young guys in that group. And even I would go as far as to say, you look at the tight ends. It's been a while. I feel like too that we've been really pumped about tight ends. I mean, you had the Martellus Bennett experience for a couple of years. Robert Tunyon had the great year in 2020, the COVID year where he had 10 touchdown catches. But John Dunn, who's the tight ends coach for Green Bay, he goes into this season too, and his top tight ends are rookies as well. Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. Sims gets brought on after cuts. So you look at what those two coaches have done, what those two position coaches have done on the offensive side. You got to tip your cap to them. And if there's coaches that maybe deserve a little raise, or hopefully they got something nice from Santa or something in their stockings, they've done a hell of a job with those kids. I still call them kids, with those young players. So they may not be getting a lot of the attention from the national side, or even from some of the state media and such. But shout out to those two young coaches for a job well done so far. And heck, I might even, I know we really haven't talked about. I'll save it here because we got to take a quick break. Let's talk a little bit about the defense from what we saw on Sunday, including the corners. The Allentines, Corey Valentine. Carey, man. Packers defense on Sunday night did something that not teams were able to do this year. 13 different players able to at least generate a pressure against Vikings quarterbacks on Sunday night. 13 different players. Packers pressured the Vikings on 50% of the dropbacks on Sunday night. But those 13 players to cause at least one pressure also, according to Next Gen Stats, tied for the most players to do so on one team in a game this season. The last to do it was the Indianapolis Colts back on week 2. Now, I'm sure there's probably a lot of Packers fans out there saying, Joe, what took you so long, bro? And I probably with you on that part too. But obviously, I think that helped out in limiting what Justin Jefferson and Addison could do in the pass game, helping out Corey Valentine. I mean, the Alentine brothers, if whatever. We got to come up with a nickname for those two. But not to take away from those guys' performance on the game on Sunday, but having 50%, 50% of the dropbacks and having pressure on there. We talked about it. How many times? You help out your corners, you help out your secondary by generating pressure, by getting after the quarterback, by making them uncomfortable. And Green Bay did that, regardless of who was back there, playing quarterback for the Vikings. Now, I don't know if you could play the same style of defense with Justin Fields, who, a little bit more of a mobile quarterback and can scramble for big yards and such. I don't know if that's going to be something that they're going to try to do again. I feel like if you're going to do that, you got to be able to collapse the pocket, contain him within that pocket, don't have any holes on the edge or coming up the middle so he can extend those plays using his legs. So I don't know if you can necessarily expect to have the same type of performance from this defense or maybe the same type of game plan going up against Fields on Sunday, but we'll see. We'll see how it rolls out. Jair Alexander should be back going up for the Bears there, but Eric Stokes. How many of you were a little bit nervous too when you found out Eric Stokes on Saturday was out? That's another guy too. They've got to figure out if they're gonna spend some time, and they got a plan to figure out hamstring stuff with Christian Watson. They got to figure out something with Eric Stokes and that hamstring too. That's twice now. And what happened on like Friday or Saturday to where it's like, oop, he's out. I wouldn't expect him to play against Chicago. I wouldn't expect that at all. But man, of all the rookies, who has impressed you the most so far? When you got Carrington Valentine, you've got the tight ends, you've got the receivers. I mean, this class is looking pretty darn good for Brian Gutekunst, isn't it? Looking pretty good. Sky's the limit so far for this class. All right. Don't forget, give me your sports New Year's goals. All right. Sports related ones. So pretend like you were maybe the general manager for the Packers, the Brewers, the Bucks. What would be your 2024 goals for your particular team? Think about that for a little bit. Hit me up with the text. Also, it is a Ray's Place What's Your Beef Tuesday. So if you do have something that is maybe kind of grinding your gears or what's your beef, hit us up with a text as well. And you could win a free hot beef sandwich or ham sandwich from the iconic and legendary Ray's Place. We're going to talk some college football coming up in the next hour. We know the two teams who will be going up against each other for the national championship. Michigan defeating Alabama in overtime. Washington holding off Texas. So it'll be Washington taking on Michigan. Badgers falling yesterday to LSU. Jumped out to a lead. I mean, Tanner Mordecai was throwing the ball all over the place, but Badgers not able to hold on. We'll talk all things Badgers, though, with Mr. R.J. Cardinal coming up at about 8:20. We'll do 8:20. And speaking of the Badgers, Badger Hoops, back in action tonight, taking on Iowa as they begin their Big Ten portion of their schedule. I know they played Michigan State, but now it's all Big Ten teams on the schedule for the Badgers, and that starts tonight. Tip off 6 p.m. against the Hawkeyes. We'll finish up the last couple minutes. Morning Morks.
Hey, speaking of tip-offs, what about tip-ups? Is this winter weather making you mad because there's no good ice fishing and winter sports stuff, or do you kind of like the mild winter?
I don't mind it.
No, because
No.
I know some ice fish that are like, come on already. This is getting
Yeah.
ridiculous.
No, I don't
And
mind
it's
it.
going to get colder, obviously.
I
But
was always like, if I could have a little snow for Christmas, I'm fine. But after Christmas, it can go away.
yeah, but now
So,
it's coming.
yeah.
Yeah, so now it's just going to irritate you even more.
Mhm.
Speaking of, how was the holidays overall?
It was good.
Good?
How about you?
What was the winner for Hudson?
For just like gift wise from Santa?
Where
or-
did Santa knock it out of the park?
Probably his turtle sewer set because it's in my office right now because he doesn't have school today.
Ah,
So I had to bring that for him.
I thought maybe you brought it for yourself.
No.
Turtles,
no.
man.
Well, yeah, he's got a backpack full of turtles there too. Otherwise, buck hunter or his aunts got him this. It's like a virtual bow thing too. So I've been doing that, practicing my bow game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, actually, you hit it out of the park. Casper was nice enough to go with me and pick out a gift for Siggy's Secret Santa because I had middle school boy shopping, turns out. Not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So you were nice enough to go and grab a couple cards. And not only was that a hit, but your sports talk hat was, I'm told, worn all day long. So
Nice.
thank you very much for the help there. I
Shout
appreciate
out,
the assist.
yeah.
Now, are
That
you?
was also another hit too at that card shop.
Yeah.
Hudson, AJ Dillon. I picked him up an AJ Dillon autograph card. That's his favorite player.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah.
That was good.
Yep.
So all the way around, that was a
Oh,
good
yeah.
win. Way
Yep.
to go, Dad.
Yep.
So are you a resolution guy?
No.
Nah, not a
Mm-mm.
one.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm not either.
No.
So in January, then this is obviously, according to research, people's most least favorite month. So if you had to pick up the 12 months, your favorite and least favorite, January gets kind of the stinker card. Where
Yeah.
would you say you're? Because I'm like, I don't like March. March to me
Yeah.
feels like purgatory before you actually get into legit better weather. It's still kind of crummy. Everything's soggy or getting into like the residue of winter. It's all bleak and dreary, not to bring the room down.
Yeah. Well, if I did it from a sports perspective, October is the best month. Then March would be second.
Okay,
April would be second. April would be second.
for
probably.
sports.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as
No.
personal.
Personal, I might go February.
Is your least favorite?
Because you got the Super Bowl, but
Yeah.
then there's nothing after that.
Do you think they should make the day after the Super Bowl a national holiday?
Yes, but I know I wouldn't be able to take that off.
Oh, no, because you got to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's an extra day this year because we're in a leap year. So it's, yeah, we get the
Yeah.
29th.
That's right.
But as far as January goes, speaking of sports in January, 1924, January saw the first Winter Olympics take place. Well, you know what country that was in?
1924, first Winter Olympics?
First Winter Olympics ever, 1924, took place in
Sweden?
No. Wee! France.
France?
Yeah.
So that's where Paris is.
Yeah.
Apparently Snoop Dogg's, they were promoting that thing. I don't know if you watched it on Sunday night.
No, what did I miss?
I mean, apparently Snoop Dogg's a part of the coverage for NBC. So they were promoting that all like every 5 minutes during the game.
Snoop Dogg's kind of everywhere right now, though. He also just made a line of pet gear, like leashes and collars and that kind of stuff, too.
Kind of late in the game on that one, man.
He is all over it.
Yeah.
So are you a Winter Olympics guy?
Nah.
Pick one sport, one event in the Winter Olympics that you would actually watch.
Hockey.
Okay. That's like the truest game-to-game sport.
Yeah.
How about outside of the Olympics? Hockey fan?
Yeah, my Kraken won yesterday.
Oh, that's right. You're
Against the
hopping on the
Vegas
Kraken
Knights.
train.
Yeah.
Way to go, Vegas Kraken.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Seattle Kraken, not Vegas
Oh,
Kraken.
man, I'm
Come
out of the
on.
loop. See?
There you go. Thanks, Margs. We'll talk some college football coming up next. Second hour kicking off on this Tuesday morning, January 2nd, 2024. How you doing, everybody? What's going on? Hopefully you all had a fantastic break. If you were on a break, maybe you're back to work after having the whole week off last week, like myself over there. But hopefully you're all off to a fantastic New Year's already, too. What do we got on the dockets here this morning? We're going to get, first hour we talked all about some green and gold, some Packers there. Getting ready for the Bears on Sunday. Bears week officially underway here. Win and in for the green and gold. We all know that story, right? We all know everything there. So, but we'll get back to some more green and gold chats coming up a little bit later on here. I want to get to some Bucks chat too. Bucks falling last night to the Pacers. They'll be back at it again tomorrow on the road there for 3 games going up against Pacers, San Antonio, Houston. Then they'll be at home for a little bit of stretch. Includes a game against the Boston Celtics next Thursday. So for all the talk out there that the Boston Celtics are clearly the best team in the association, Bucks will have a crack at them next week. We're going to talk some college football coming up here too. Badger football falling yesterday to LSU. RJ Cardinal will be a little over an hour from now to talk some Badger football. Taking a recap in that, and Tanner Mordecai, even with him throwing the ball all over the field yesterday, I know there were some Badgers fans, at least on social media, saying, "Dude, where the heck was that all season long?" But we'll kind of recap that and maybe give a little bit of a look ahead to what's on the docket for Badger football for next season, transfer portal, all that stuff. We know who's in the national championship now with Michigan beating Alabama in overtime, and the Washington Huskies defeating Texas last night, 37-31. So that national championship game will be next Monday. Don't forget to put it on your calendar. It always kind of creeps up, and you always kind of forget. At least I do. I know I'm not the only one, but you kind of forget. It's like, oh yeah, crap, national championship game is already coming up here. So that should be a good one. I'm excited to see that. Got the high power offense of Washington, and then defense with Michigan over there. Who's going to come out on top? And could it be Harbaugh's final game as head coach for the Michigan Wolverines? Let's do some sports nuggets of the day, though, to kick off this second hour. 1953, the Baltimore Bullets began a 32-game road losing streak. So I know that's a road losing streak, but maybe we should give a shout out to the Detroit Pistons for snapping their 28-game losing streak, defeating Toronto a couple nights ago. Let's go Broadway. Joe Namath, 1965, signed the richest rookie contract in the history of pro football. That time it was a $400,000 contract. $400K. Let's go with 1972. Elvis Presley gave Muhammad Ali a $10,000 robe with the People's Champion inscribed on it. Ali wore the robe on May 31st, 1973, when he lost to Ken Norton. 1982, the New York Islanders began a 23-game undefeated home streak. Ken Anderson, 1983, for the Cincinnati Bengals, completed 20 consecutive passes to set a then NFL record for passing accuracy. Let's go. Do we got anything else out there? Oh, yeah, 2003. This day in 2003, it was announced that Bill Parcells would be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like that's one of those coaching hires that you kind of forget. It's like, oh, yeah, Bill Parcells did coach the Cowboys. You think of Parcells, you think of the Giants, I think, first. I think of the Patriots second because, Green Bay beat them in Super Bowl 31. Then, the Jets there, and then it's like, oh, yeah, he was there too for Dallas for a little bit. Remember Quincy Carter, his quarterback for the Cowboys there too for a little bit. So, yeah, those are your sports nuggets for this Tuesday morning. Back to college football here, though. So, looking at the games from last night, Michigan going to overtime, getting that W against Alabama, making the comeback, Alabama taking the lead, and then Michigan driving the field in the final couple minutes to tie it up, and then holding on for overtime, and then 2 plays later in overtime, they put up the touchdown, and then on fourth and a few yards from the goal line, able to stop Alabama from getting a kind of a weird play call, if you're asking me, with the quarterback running up the middle for that final play call there for Alabama. But it is what it is at this point in time. So Michigan holding off Alabama to punch their ticket, and then what a lot of people expected in that next game, the Sugar Bowl between Texas and Washington, to be a shootout. Well, 37-31, Washington holding on as Texas wasn't able to punch it in at the end of the game there. So we get Washington and we get Michigan, the number 1 and the number 2 teams in the country, as voted on, as ranked in the polls there. The top 2 teams in the country will meet each other for the national championship. We'll do some picks for this game coming up a little bit later on here. Well, I should say a little bit later on in the week. We'll probably Monday, since it is a Monday night game. So we'll save that for our picks over there. But your early thoughts on the game, your early analysis on the game. It's a couple of different teams, right? It's not Georgia in there. It's not Alabama in there. It's not those typical teams in there. We got a Big Ten team, and we got, as of now, Pac-12 team in there. We don't have the normal, quote-unquote, normal teams in there. I'm excited for this game. Now, usually in the past for the national championship games, they're like, oh, yeah, Georgia's in there again, Alabama. It's like, okay, I get it. They're the best of the best, and they're one of the better teams, or that, if not the best teams in the country. But it got a little tiring, right? I mean, it got a little bit like same story, same, different year, same story sort of thing. I'm excited for this matchup. I'm excited to see these 2 teams go at it. It's something different, but it's the top 2 teams in the country, 2 very high quality teams going at it. Michigan with their defense, Washington with their offense, Michael Penix Jr. over there for the Huskies. Man, does that guy throw a nice deep ball, though, too. Holy moly, if you haven't seen it before, I know they're talking a little bit about it last night and such, but man, I would have been happy if it was either Texas or Washington going up against, Michigan. Just something different over there, but I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a close game, and yeah, I can't wait to get to it on Monday. It's going to be a really, really fun one. So, but with the Badger game too, and again, we'll talk with RJ about this coming up in about an hour. And it's hard to take away anything from a game, a bowl game, and then kind of relay it to, can we take away from anything from this game and look ahead to next year? You had Tanner Mordecai, dude threw for 378 yards, 40 pass attempts. And, the offensive game plan probably changed because of the running back situation. Jackson, 14 carries, 8 yards, 6.1, per carry there. But there's talk about him maybe making a position switch because of the depth, because of all the running backs that are coming into Wisconsin. Talked a little bit about that. Maybe more of a typical H-back type of role, because he was initially a fullback, then converted to running back, and then, now maybe going back to an H-back sort of thing there. But, I don't know if we can necessarily take anything away from the game yesterday and look ahead to, is that something that they can build upon for next year? Because you're going to have a different quarterback. You're going to have that different quarterback. Receiving wise, I don't know. It's just very hard. But how would you, now that this Badger season's over with, now that this Badger season's in the books, and this was a season that had a ton of hype, excitement, high expectations for a lot of people, they end up 7-6, losing in the ReliaQuest Bowl to LSU. How would you assess it? How would you grade it? I mean, we had people going 11-1, going to the Big Ten championship game. I had them winning 10 games. They didn't live up to that. I think a lot of it had to deal with we just had such huge, huge expectations. We fell a little bit for the excitement, the lust of Luke Fickell coming in. And this isn't a knock on Luke Fickell by any means. I think we got so excited. We got so pumped up and like, oh, wow, this is going to be a great era. This is going to be awesome. Kind of fell into the limelight of or the lust of all the transfer portal guys coming in and changing up the offense. Defensively, it's going to be a little bit different too. We fell in love right away. And it's kind of like we fell into that crush right away. It's like the honeymoon phase, right? And then we had those expectations so incredibly high. We were so pumped up that it probably was a little too high to begin with. And now, things are going to get a whole lot more difficult coming up in the Big Ten with that expansion. UCLA, USC, Washington coming over. Right? It's gonna be weird watching Big Ten football for the next few years. It's really gonna be weird. It's gonna be different. But it was a good day of college football last night for sure. No doubt about that. If you didn't enjoy those games between Michigan and Alabama and Washington and Texas, boy, I don't know what to tell you. I'll be honest. There's been some talk. I saw David Bakhtiari talk about Brian Balaga even, I think, just the other day, tweet about it. That Georgia and Florida State game was just awful, right? It was poo-poo. It was ugly. There's been some of those games where it's just been bad football. But those two games last night, those were pretty good. Those were pretty darn good. So, all right, let's switch gears here a little bit. We're going to get back to some more green and gold chats as we prepare for Bears week here. All right. Kind of take a look at that, kind of do a little early preview, but still kind of looking back at Sunday's game because we weren't here yesterday. But winning in, this is what you want. This is what every team wants. They want to control their destiny. Green Bay was controlling their destiny middle December after that Kansas City game. They were controlling their destiny. And then that stretch, New York, Tampa Bay, they lost it. They got a little help. Thank you, Pittsburgh. Thank you, Pittsburgh, for helping us out, defeating Seattle. Mason almost did it for us for the Giants. Almost did it. Couldn't hit that field goal. A little long for him, but still. But thank you, Pittsburgh, because that allows Green Bay now to control their destiny, win and in. Very similar, same exact way as last year, win and in. Game at Lambeau. Do you feel better? I don't want to say that because I think a lot of us thought, all right, going up against the Lions last year, winning in at Lambeau, you're probably feeling pretty confident about that, but we know the result. How you feeling about this? Don't give me a prediction. Don't give me a prediction yet because we got all week, right? We got all week to look at that. But your first impressions, your first gut feelings, are you feeling confident? Are you feeling good? With the Bears coming into Lambeau and Green Bay coming away with a W. Or are you feeling a little nervous? Because right now, I'll tell you, I'm kind of nervous. I'll be at the game. And the last time I was at a Bears-Packers game, 2011, winning in. That was the last Packers-Bears game I was at in person. Was that one where they won and they were in. Bears had already clinched their spot. Packers had to win to get in, and we know what happened the rest of that postseason. Hopefully something similar to that, but you never know. But I'm a little nervous. Bears are playing better. And I don't think Green Bay is going to overlook that, or they're going to how do I want to phrase this? They're not going to overlook the Bears or anything like that, but I think they know that this Bears team is really different than what they saw in week one. And that's the thing. The last time this Packers team went up against the Bears is week one. These two teams, a little bit different right now. A little bit different. How much can you go back to week one and look at that tape and scout for this game? You got a whole season in between these two. Bears are playing a lot better. They started off this season going 0-4. That's what makes me a little bit nervous. So let's talk some more green and gold. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back after these quick words.
#21 Claremont near Fairfax in Eau Claire.
Service Master of Chippewa Valley is your local expert when it comes to fire and water damage, carpet and air duct cleaning, mold remediation, and trauma. They're when you need them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Trust comes in the yellow truck. Learn more at ServiceMasterChippewaValley.com.
Not only can you listen to your favorite radio show in the world, but now you can watch why everyone says Dan has a face for radio. Watch the Dan Kasper Show live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
Don't forget, it is a Ray's Place. What's Your Beef Tuesday? If you want to win an iconic, legendary hot beef or ham sandwich from Ray's Place, text us on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. What's your beef? All right, what's your beef? Shout out to, I know it was about a week and a half or so, but and I apologize, but the gentleman who dropped off when I was over there at Ray's, was it week and a half ago, the Friday before Christmas, but the Cal Hubbard newspaper article. So appreciate you dropping that by and let me read that and such. So I know I was supposed to give you a shout out when I was back on. So finally back on since then. But big thanks to that gentleman who found me over at Ray's having lunch and dropped off that Cal Hubbard article. Really cool. So thank you for that. But we've got Josh on the texting line. He ain't worried about this game on Sunday. Says, I'm not worried at all. Offense is clicking at the right time. But a little bit different on the video stream there. James, oh yeah, I'm nervous. It comes down to which defense chooses to show up. So about 50-50 right now from a lot of you out there. So how nervous are you? Hit us up with a text, 715-830-1912. Approaching the bottom of the hour here, we'll talk a little bit more green and gold. Packers sitting there at 8-8, win and in against the Bears at Lambeau Field, controlling their destiny. How you feeling about this game, Joseph?
First of all, Happy New Year, Captain.
Happy New Year.
For a good 2024. So here's the thing, and I just want to take back the fans back to last year. I know, it was Aaron Rodgers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the Packers were in the same situation, playing at home with a chance to get into the playoffs. And I think Packer fans expected Green Bay to roll over Detroit last year and get into the playoffs. And, of course, that did not happen. Now, fast forward to this year, and the Packers find themselves eerily in the same situation when you're in a home game at Lambeau. And look, I just want to caution Packer fans to not be overconfident going into this game, because look at this team this year. You start off the year, you look really good, then you look really bad, then you look really good, then you look really bad, and now they're looking better again. And this is exactly what we thought this season was going to be. And it was all about the maturation of not only Jordan Love, but some of these other younger guys. And you're seeing that right now. And that's great. And look, I think the playoffs would be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience for this young team. But I don't want to go into this game thinking, yeah, the Packers got this. Yeah, they're looking so good, because you just don't know what this team is going to do and how it responds to being able to a must-win game to get in the playoffs. I mean, most of these guys on this football team, if I go through the roster, I'm thinking, yeah, Preston Smith has some playoff experience. David Bakhtiari, obviously, he's not playing. He has playoff experience, but he's not there. And you look at up and down the roster, there's not a lot of guys that have playoff experience. And so this is a playoff game. All right, this is essentially a playoff game. And the Bears are playing a lot better. They're playing a lot better. They probably have saved Matt Eberflus's job. And this defense of the Bears is good. They are a good football team. So right now, I won't bury the headline. If this game were played in Chicago, I'd pick the Bears. And since it's being played at Lambeau, I do feel like Green Bay, the home field advantage is going to be enough to tip the scales.
Biggest difference between these two teams since their week one matchup?
I think Justin Fields. I think the way that he is playing and the way that, the Montez Sweat trade really, I think, put that defense into that next category. And looking now you're saying, okay, that was a really good trade for Chicago. And so defense has improved, but I think it's just the play of the quarterback. And it's interesting, Captain, because conversely, Jordan Love has really held this thing together through the ups and downs this year. And it's interesting that you say that he has been the steadying force on this ship for the Packers. I think that, as Fields gets better, and I think Chicago realizes now they probably have their quarterback. So they need to go different direction, and they really, really control that top of the draft coming up. But I think that's the biggest difference of the Chicago team is the offensive side of the ball. Even though defensively they're better, I think you look at what Fields has been able to do and putting up points, and they're in a rhythm right now. And it seems to me like Luke Getsy has a handle on what to do with Fields. And so I think that's probably the biggest area of improvement.
Looking at this Packers offense, too, with these young rookies, Bo Melton becoming the first Packer receiver to have 100 yards receiving in a game this year. But you look at Jordan Love, over 3,800 passing yards, 30 touchdown passes in his 16 games, just 11 interceptions. As I was watching this game on Sunday and kind of thinking about it afterwards, how many years have we been talking about Aaron Rodgers needs to earn trust, or these young receivers need to earn trust from Aaron Rodgers? It takes a rookie maybe a couple years, and here you go. You got Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed being your top two of your top 3 receivers in receiving yards, and Bo Melton coming in there with 100 yards. Did we kind of overrate that whole trust thing, and or is this more towards this is the offense we finally wanted to see from Matt LaFleur when he first got hired? This is the offense. This is the Shanahan offense that we wanted to see since day one.
I think Aaron Rodgers, as he grew in his career, I think his expectations were very, very high, and I don't fault him for that. His expectations of others around him and himself were very, very high, and I don't think it's a secret that as Aaron Rodgers got a little bit older and a little bit more experience, he might have been a little prickly to be around and a little difficult to be around. And again, I never want to take away the quarterback of Aaron Rodgers. Because again, I will go down to my grave saying one of the best to throw the football of all time. But I think as he got older and the age gap between he and some of the younger guys, I think it got more difficult for him to relate and to connect with those guys. And I think he was in a real big comfort zone with Jordy and Devontae and James Jones and Donald Driver. And he inherited, most of those guys. And so these guys went through Brett Favre, then they went through Aaron Rodgers. And so it was a completely different situation. But look, Jordan Love he didn't have an option because there were no veterans. And so I look at this team, and I think Goody's vision was let's get Jordan Love and a young receiving core and a relatively young offensive line growing together. And so I think that's where this plays into. I think Goody saw what was happening with Rodgers, saw it was very hard for young wide receivers to quote unquote earn his trust. And so he said, you know what, I'm going to do it differently. And I'm going to grow an offense together with an offensive line, with wide receivers, with tight end, and with the quarterback. So I think he took a different philosophy, and you're seeing the fruits of the labor right now. And look, we talk about the young guys. I don't want to take anything away at all from the young guys on the offensive line, because the job that Rasheed Walker, and those of you who maybe didn't notice it, last few weeks, Josh Nijman and Rasheed Walker have been rotating. Rasheed Walker played pretty much the whole game. Josh Nijman got in garbage time, and that was it. And I think Rasheed Walker has stepped up his game now at that left tackle position. And Zach Tom really did a nice job on Daniel Hunter and really nullified his pass rush. And so you might have your bookends now at your tackle positions, and they're young guys. I mean, Rasheed Walker, second-year guy, Zach Tom, stepping in. These guys are young players. And so you talk about the receivers, you talk about the quarterback, but look at the offensive line, and they're gelling at the right time as well.
There was a play, and I know it's kind of minor maybe for some people, but for some reason it came to my mind right away. Watching, because Jordan Love obviously has been a big topic the last for the whole season, but last couple of games here, and just the growth and the poise that he has shown. But there was a play that he had made. Pressure was kind of on. He's still looking down the field. He kind of moves up into the pocket, and then he just dumps it off to Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones picks up a first down, 10, 11-yard gain over there. And I immediately thought, Aaron Rodgers doesn't make that throw. Aaron Rodgers is probably still, and I'm not trying to pile on Aaron Rodgers or anything like that, but I feel like Aaron Rodgers would have still tried to find the big play down the field, throwing it down there instead of taking what the defense was giving him, instead of taking down that little dump off pass there. those are some of the stuff that I've noticed from Jordan Love. But I also feel like his deep ball has gotten better. What have you noticed from Jordan Love in these last few weeks that have, maybe you've seen the biggest improvement from?
And look, Captain, everyone knows that who listens to you and me talk that I from day one was not a Jordan Love fan. I had watched enough film and the regression from his sophomore to junior year. And the biggest thing that I always said was the mental part of the game. It's reading the defense. It's seeing the line of scrimmage and that 30 seconds that you have to process what the defense is trying to do. And I think that's the biggest jump for him. Look, Brian Flores is a heck of a coach. And he does a heck of a job designing a defense to confuse the quarterback. And what impressed me most was the job that Jordan Love did mentally. And that is, I've always said this. I don't care what level you're at. Quarterback's the toughest position to play in all sports. You have 30 seconds, if that, to dissect where the hole is, where the weak spot is of that defense. And it just, to me, it's incredible to quarterbacks that at any level that can be successful, because the mental part of the game, and that's really, for me, where Jordan Love has gotten so much better. Look back to the Kansas City game, the COVID game where he had to start several years ago, and Steve Spagnuolo completely confused him. And so you look now, and some of the better defensive coordinators that Love has faced this year, whether it be the Kansas City game, the Detroit game, the Minnesota game, Jordan Love has owned the mental part of the line of scrimmage. And really, for me, that's the part of the game that the game has finally, I think, slowed down for him. And you're just seeing him. He was in complete control. I mean, when I saw him, and I was watching the game, when I saw him drop back, and you knew back in the day when Aaron Rodgers would drop back, and even with Brett Favre, he would drop back, and you knew when he was throwing in rhythm, that was going to be a completion. And you felt that same way watching this game Sunday night. And so I think for me, it is truly the mental part of the game that Jordan Love has mastered. And look, because the fact that his stats are eerily similar to Rodgers' first year, does that mean he's going to have the same success that Rodgers had? No, absolutely not. But is he on the right path, and has he earned that extension and the trust of the organization to say, yeah, this is the guy that can be the quarterback for a long time? Absolutely. And look, the extension is going to come in May. I don't have any doubt about that. I think it's going to be significant. It'll be a significant extension and put him in the place probably another 4 years. And then they'll be, see what happens down the road. But really the maturation and growth, again, the mental part of Jordan Love and his ability to process a defense and find the open hole, it's amazing. And I think everything's coming together nicely because this offensive line is giving him more time. The receivers and he are on the same page. Aaron Jones is healthy. Everything's coming together very nicely at the right time of year. But I think Jordan Love becoming a student of the game is the biggest growth spot.
I agree. And I know I mentioned it in the first hour, but again, I think, a couple of position coaches, on this offensive side, since we're talking a little bit about the offensive side, Jason Vrabel, the wide receivers coach, and John Dunn, the tight ends coach, the job those two guys have done this year, considering Vrabel had his veterans were second-year guys and Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, and John was like all rookies. Those two guys, I don't know if they're getting any talks about promotions elsewhere, but they've done a hell of a job so far this year for Green Bay.
No doubt. And I think you got to throw Luke Butkus in there. And there were a lot of questions about all of those position coaches, including from me earlier on in the year when the Packers were going through some of their, that downward turn type of thing, the 4-game losing streak and, the 2-game losing streak here later in the year. And there were a lot of question marks there. And I think the lesson to be learned is if you're going to go into the year with the youngest team in the NFL, you're going to have this up and down kind of season where they look really good one week, and then for whatever the reason they don't the next week. And so, yeah, I think the position coaches hanging in there with these guys, not making knee-jerk reactions, and being patient with the process and believing in the process, and the players as well. I think they all deserve huge kudos. And I think regardless of what happened Sunday at Lambeau Field, I say this season has been a success. And if you would have said to any Packer fan before the season started that this team will either finish 8-9 or 9-8 and either make the playoffs or just miss the playoffs, but you can really hang your hat on Jordan Love and a few of these other young guys, I think any Packer fan would have taken that. And so, yeah, I think this season, and again, I got to give kudos to Matt LaFleur. We had a lot of questions about him in the middle of the season, but he's been able to steer this ship and keep it right and not lose the locker room. I mean, I think the fear coming into this game was Devondre Campbell speaks out, Jair Alexander gets suspended, all of these things, and it's like, is LaFleur losing that locker room? I don't see it. I didn't see it in the post-game presser. I didn't see it in the post-game celebration. I didn't see any of that. And so, once again, a lot of question marks going into this season. Regardless of what happened Sunday, I think you got some answers.
Packers defense in this game, 13 different players generated at least one pressure, the most all season since the Colts did it in week 2. Now, I don't know if you have that same kind of game plan going up against Justin Fields with his mobility, but if you're Joe Barry, Joe, wow, maybe you are Joe Barry, I don't know. But how do you game plan for Justin Fields and this Bears offense?
You know, you've got, and I liked what they did with Quay Walker in this game too, because I thought that they used him effectively. With Justin Fields, I think you've got to have that spy mentality. You've got to push this week that you've got to be really disciplined in your rush lanes and your lane responsibility. Discipline. It's a controlled discipline because you've got to get after him. You've got to get after Justin Fields, but you can't let him make plays, and especially big plays. And so I think Quay Walker, I think he is going to be a key to this game, because are you going to have to probably spy on Fields a little bit and say, all right, Quay, your job is to be the spy, and then if he breaks containment, you've got to be solid in your stop. And so I think what you've got to do is I don't think you can go hell-bent after the quarterback like you did this past week. And Joe Barry did the right thing. He was facing a rookie quarterback, and he created confusion and brought it from a lot of different angles. I mean, even Keyshawn Nixon got into it. And so I just don't think you can do that this week with Fields, but you've got to get pressure. So I think it's get after the quarterback, but get after the quarterback with lane integrity so that he does not break the pocket. And look, I want to say this, heck of a defensive game plan by Joe Barry. He did not, in my opinion, save his job. I still think he is gone at the end of this year. But you got to give credit what credit is due. And I thought Joe Barry dialed up a really nice scheme this past weekend.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy of mine during the game. We were both saying, I don't remember the last time we saw some corner blitzes coming in that game. And that's where Nixon made a couple plays coming off that corner blitz. So,
yeah, I mean, it reminded me a little bit of the old Dom Capers look. And of course, having Charles Woodson coming off the slot, you can do a lot of different things with Charles Woodson coming off the slot in a defense like that. But it reminded me of some of those good Dom Caper defenses with Green Bay and what they were able to do coming from different angles. And that's really the key. And I think if you look at Green Bay typically during the year, it's been pretty vanilla as far as how they rush the quarterback and go after the quarterback. And I think that's one of the areas where you say, okay, and I still think Justin Fields can be a little bit rattled when he doesn't know where pressure is coming from. So I think you can still bring that slot off and bring the blitz because he's athletic enough that probably at that point it's a good matchup between the slot corner and Justin Fields. But yeah, Justin Fields presents a challenge. He absolutely does. It's going to be a different ball game than what Green Bay's defense came up against Minnesota. And that might be the big difference in this game is can you get a couple of easy ones from Justin Fields to shorten the field and make this game a 2-score football game? If this becomes a 2-score football game early on for the Green Bay Packers, I see them winning. Mm-hmm. If this goes back and forth and stays very close, at that point, it's a coin flip, and either team could pull this one out.
So you're saying coin flip, win it, receive it? The whole receive deferred. Yeah. I don't know how many times.
It depends on if Jair is calling the coin flip or not.
No
so,
kidding, right?
that's a big question mark there. But No, look, like I said, I think if this game is in Chicago, I think Chicago wins. But I'm giving this game to Green Bay because of home field advantage and just because of the way Jordan Love is playing. I think he is taking his game to the next level, and that's the most important position, no matter what the level is.
I agree. All right, Joseph, we appreciate the time as always. Hopefully, we're talking about a playoff matchup next week, but I agree with you. Regardless of the outcome, I think there's a lot of Packers fans should be excited about the future, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I asked a friend of mine real quick who's a Vikings fan. I said, "How do you feel about the future of your franchise?" It's like, do you go after Kirk Cousins and try to bring him back? Because right now, I don't think the Vikings have their quote unquote quarterback of the future, and so they're in a state of flux. And so, would you rather be the Packers looking forward or a team like the Vikings right now? And I think you'd rather be Green Bay. And again, I tip my hat to Goody for doing the job that he's done over the last couple of years and putting this team in a position to potentially be successful for another 10-year, 12-year run.
I agree. All right, Joe, you have a good rest of your week, and we'll catch up with you again next Tuesday, bud.
And I know real quick, you're going to Lambeau, correct?
Yep. I am.
I am. I got to say, I sold my tickets a long time ago, but I'm working on it with a friend of mine to get my son up there for this game. So my goal is to get my son up there so he could see potentially the Packers go to the playoffs. But you enjoy Lambeau this week, my friend.
Well, the last Packers-Bears game I was at that I attended in person was 2011. Winning in. Well, kind of our history repeating itself, hopefully, because we all know what happened
But
later.
you know what? I was at that game as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was at that game as well, and I will tell you, yeah, you're seeing some similarities. I'm not saying this team could go on a run, but it would be very important for them to make the playoffs. You enjoy the week. Enjoy Lambeau. We'll talk next week, hopefully about a Packer win.
You got it, buddy. There you go. There's Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning. We got to take a quick break, though, and then we'll finish up the second hour. Badger Talk coming up next hour. Badger Hoops in action tonight, taking on the Hawkeyes of Iowa. And we'll talk some football. We just got a few minutes left. Don't forget, last call for some what's your beefs? What is your beefs for this week? Your race plays, what's your beef? You want an iconic, legendary. I'm going through. We got a bunch of texts coming through here, so I got to minimize this. I'm getting distracted. My apologies. If you want an iconic or legendary Ray's Place hot beef sandwich or hot ham sandwich, if you want to win one of those, send me your beef. I know it's the new year, so maybe not a whole lot of what's your beef going on right now. But if you've got something, send it on over. We'll announce the winner in the next hour, and then head on down to Race Fest. We'll mail you the certificate. But you winners over there too, don't forget they expire next month, so you got to get down there and get your hot beef and ham sandwich. Maybe you'll even run into the G-Man, the Hall of Famer G-Man over there too. So get those in, make them creative, make them so I can say it on the air as well. All right. Next hour, though, we'll get to some more college football talk, Badger talk, too, with Mr. R.J. Cardinal from the Zone in Madison, recapping the loss yesterday to LSU and looking ahead to some hoops. Big Ten matchup, Iowa, Wisconsin, tonight. Bucks last night, though, just to wrap up the second hour here, let's talk a little NBA. The Bucks last night falling to the Indiana Pacers. Got yeah, no, good joke there. Sorry, sidetracked again. But the Bucks falling 122 to 113 to the Indiana Pacers. Bucks still 24-9, holding on to that second seed in the Eastern Conference, although Celtics kind of improving or increasing their gap there a little bit by 2.5. A lot of people saying that the Celtics clearly are the best team in all the land, in the entire association, the entire NBA. And well, right now, I mean, as we open up the 2024 year, I probably wouldn't argue that at this point. But you're probably going to start to hear some more talks about trades and rumors and should this team make this move and that sort of thing. And because the trade deadline's coming up on February 8th, so just a little over a month and some change here. But when it comes to the Bucks, you know, do they need to make a move right now? Do they need to make a trade? You know, I'm looking at their schedule here. They got Boston next week. They've already played Boston once, so they got a game against Boston at home next Thursday. If that's kind of the barometer to kind of signal that's who they need to make a move because maybe they can't be bought. I mean, they got Boston. I'm just kind of scrolling through the rest of the schedule here. One more time in March and then one more in April. So they got them 3 more times here, but just only once before the trade deadline. So, you know, when you look at it, what are some of the biggest needs that this team needs? I mean, their 3-point shooting's up there. Malik Beasley is one of the league leaders in percentage. I think it's, you know, if you ask a lot of people, it's probably defense. They got to get better at defense, but could they get that, you know, influx of defensive play when Jay Crowder comes back from his surgery? Hopefully it's sometime soon. But maybe that's the trade that the Bucks themselves could, quote unquote, make, is just getting Jay Crowder back, because he's getting a lot of playing time in the early part of the season, which was a whole lot more than what he was getting at the end of the season last year. So I think if you ask a lot of people, you're looking for more defense, but could that defense just come from getting Jay Crowder back? Possibly. We'll see. But I think so far what we're seeing now that Christmas Day is past, because a lot of people use Christmas Day as a barometer, as a gauge to the NBA season, maybe when they start to pay a little bit more attention, maybe when you start to get a little bit of a good idea of, you know, the teams that are going to be in it at the end. Eastern Conference is playing out, I think, like a lot of people expected, at least in the top 3. Boston, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. Orlando, you know, still holding on to the 4th spot by just a half game over Miami. They're definitely a surprise. Miami's up in there, though. Indiana. So I don't think there's a whole lot of big surprises when it comes to the Eastern Conference. Western side of things, Minnesota's still holding on to that 1 seed. Maybe a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people. Minnesota and OKC. I love the fact that it's Minnesota and OKC as the top 2 teams in the Western Conference. No offense to Denver. Denver's really good. I don't have a problem with Denver. I'm just glad it's not the Lakers. It's not the Phoenix Suns. It's not those teams that, that always get all the talk. It's Minnesota and OKC. If I'm an OKC fan, if I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, and I've got like 500 first round draft picks in the next 10 years, you're feeling pretty darn good about your future. So, all right, let's get it going here. Third and final hour. Send me your beefs, people. What do you got? Hit us up with a text. We'll be back after these quick news updates. third and final hour on this Tuesday, the first Tuesday of 2024. Big thanks to all of you for tuning in, listening, however, or viewing. Shout out to all the viewers on our video streams on YouTube and Facebook and even Twitter over there. So big thanks for checking us out. Don't forget to join in on the conversation over there. James, a couple more texts. Going full out fanboy this Sunday for the Pack. I'm seeing this as my Super Bowl. If that Packers win, that makes my season. Any excess in the playoffs will be a cherry on top. I do think this will be a close game. I want to get excited about the defense's performance, but the Vikings quarterback situation is a dumpster fire. The Bears are playing good football. Go Pack. After watching the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, I haven't been this excited for a national championship game. It will be a nice contest in styles with a lot of personality on both sides of the ball. I would agree with that, James. Absolutely. I'm definitely excited for Monday night's national championship game. So we got some beefs coming up here. Let's get to some texts here. This one actually isn't a beef. This is from Jeremy. Overall, I'm pretty confident in this game. Probably a 7 out of 10, but I'm also fine with either result. Obviously, I want them to win and make the playoffs, but if they lose, my expectations were met for the season. They have their next quarterback for 10 or more years, and the draft pick is slightly higher. Go Pack, make the playoffs, and upset the 2 seed. I like that. There you go, Jimmy. All right. I love the optimism, man. All right, let's get to some beefs here. C-Bomb, my beef, trying to start 2024 positive. But if I have a beef, it's you. No more taking a month straight off. I didn't take a month off. I took a week off. It's not a month, man. So, another one. My beef is that stupid Vikings horn. 3 to 5 minutes left. They're getting their butts beat, and they're blowing that thing for first downs. Drives me insane. Another texter here. Happy New Year, Dan. Happy New Year to yourself. My beef is with the Vikings organization. I was at the game New Year's Eve, and the entertainment was phenomenal. However, their product on the field is horrible. How about focusing more on the product on the field and less on the oohs and the ahs? Their false tradition and glossing of reality is ridiculous. Hence, why they can never bring a trophy to U.S. Bank Stadium. I like that. Dave, my beef is enjoying a great Badger game until the collapse in the end. Some good ones. Keep them coming. All right? Keep them coming. We got some good ones. We got a good flow going here. So hit me up with that text. If I had a beef, I'm going to make it a little bit of a personal one. My buddy Jake. He never drives to Packer games. That's who I'm going to the game with. I want Jake to say he's going to drive. All right. I don't want to. I gotta do some work on the way back. I can't do that when I'm driving. So, Jake, man up. Take the wheel. All right. Drive us to the game on Sunday. Oh, that's a poor beef, I know, but I had to shout him out there. So, okay. Get those coming though. Keep them coming. 715-830-1912. How confident are you in this game? Sunday. Bears week. Coming into Lambeau. Bears playing some better ball right now. But how confident are you? How confident are you in this game? Let me know on a scale of maybe 1 to 10. All right. And I want to throw this out here too. Now, I don't know how many responses I'll get to this, but if you still are not, I'm genuinely curious, if you still are not a Jordan Love believer, if you're not ready to anoint him as the long-term starter, why? Why? Just I'm genuinely curious. Okay? Not going to argue with you. Not going to, go after it. I'm genuinely curious because what else do you want to see from him at this point in time in his career? I think that's the thing. At this point in time of his career, 1 full season under his belt, almost there. He's got his team 1 win away from getting to the postseason. What else do you want to see from Jordan Love? What else do you want to see? I'm really curious to know. Okay, if you care to share with us. I was wrong about Jordan Love. I'm ready to say, I know Aaron said a few weeks ago, let's not crown him, but I was wrong about Jordan Love. It's like, maybe I should just stop doubting whenever Green Bay does draft a quarterback when they've already got a quarterback in hand. I didn't like the Aaron Rodgers pick. That was a big egg on my face. I did not like Jordan Love pick. Big egg on my face right now, at least. I think it's fair to say that Goody got it right. But that's also a credit to Matt LaFleur, I think, too, for doing a heck of a job. Tom Clements doing a heck of a job over there. You feeling pretty good about the next 10 years for your franchise having a quarterback? I mean, you look at some of these teams that are still trying to find quarterbacks. Maybe they wait until the very last second or they don't do it the right way. If there is a right way, I know that's a debate about, how you mold your quarterbacks. Some can go in there and play right away. Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. Some you throw in it right away and it just doesn't work out. They're high picks, Zach Wilson. But man, Green Bay's, they've nailed the last couple at least. Assuming Jordan Love continue. I don't know what Jordan Love's going to be like throughout his whole career, but I think this year, what we've seen, you've got to at least be excited for the immediate future, right? You have to be. What you've seen from him. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. Footwork. Other things that, kind of pop up. But how do you not feel good about where Jordan Love is this year? What you've seen from him as the season is ending, as it's starting to wrap up here. How do you not feel good about number 10 in the next few years for Green Bay, based off of what we've seen so far this year? This offense is just, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. And I know that's not a very like bullshit, but that's the thing like that just keeps popping in my mind right now when I'm watching this team and watching this offense. It's like you got random dudes. You got these guys. I mean, it could be Wicks, it could be Reed, it could be Dobbs, it could be Bo Melton, it could be Musgrave, it could be Tucker Kraft. I know my boy Hudson's two of his favorite players, Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed. AJ Dillon's his favorite. Aaron Jones up there too. But you got guys that are just, it doesn't matter. He's finding the guys. He's finding his dudes. And he's making some pretty good throws. I'm really enjoying watching this offense right now. I am really, really enjoying this. Defensively, a little bit of a different story, right? Definitely didn't hit the expectations that we wanted to see this year. I agree that I don't think Joe Barry did not save his job with that Vikings game. And I think Matt LaFleur kind of hinted at it a little bit in his post-game presser when he said he did give a shout-out to Joe Barry, but he also kind of threw in there, it is just one game. And I'm like, oh, yep. At least he's like, it is just one game, but shout-out, to Joe Barry and such. He said, I know he's going through a lot of heat. He's taking a lot of heat. And honestly, anything short of maybe what would it take for Joe Barry to save his job? Super Bowl? I mean, I don't know. I don't think he has saved his job with that. I don't think he will save his job if he limits Chicago and Justin Fields and they get in the postseason. I mean, if they played Dallas or whoever as the 2 seed and they like shut down that offense, then I don't know. I still don't think he's going to save his job regardless of what happens. And that is going to be a major focus for this offseason, is nailing that. Because if they can nail that coordinator and they get that defense rolling to being just a solid unit, being a top 10 unit with all those players that they've invested in, draft-wise and such, with the growth of this offense, future's looking pretty darn bright. I think, at least. Josh, I think this season is a success. Even if we lose to the Bears, this team is young and they've gotten a lot better over the season. Different Josh. Got a couple Joshes here. I was wrong about Love. Earlier this season, I was saying put in Clifford, but now I'm excited for Love. I think he will get better next season. You hope, right? I mean, I don't know Jordan Love personally. I don't know his mindset, his personality. We just see it like how, I see it just like the rest of you. But all signs point to thumbs up that, he's got the respect of his teammates. His teammates love the guy. And I think they buy into him. You've heard all the right things, even in the preseason, throughout the whole season. Guys standing up for him, having his back. I hope he just continues to grow that way too. But man, how are you not excited about the potential and the future from this offense? I think this is going to be a group that we're going to enjoy watching for at least the next few seasons. And hopefully they could take advantage of that. Hopefully they could take advantage of that's where, I think not to really go into next year already, but I think next year there's going to be high expectations for this team. I don't know if they'll be because Detroit had a lot of high expectations this past offseason. They didn't make the postseason, but the arrow was trending upward. I don't know if Green Bay will be that same way, but I think the expectations will be a little bit higher because the offense, that arrow is trending upward. A new defensive coordinator with established talent on there already. Goals will still be high. Goals will be playoffs next year for sure, I think, for a lot of Packers fans. Goals will definitely be playoffs. That's the expectation. So not a whole lot of rebuild time there. All right. Let's take a quick break. And we'll talk some Badgers now with Mr. RJ Cardinal from the Zone in Madison. Big Ten portion of the hoop schedule picks back up tonight. We'll hit that up. But we'll kick things off talking a little Badger football after yesterday's game. Badgers falling, having the early lead against LSU, but not able to hold on, even with Tanner Mordecai throwing it all over the place in the game from yesterday. We'll recap that. And did RJ is there anything we could take away from yesterday's game that we can take away and maybe look towards the future for this team? Anything? Possibly? I don't know. Might be kind of hard because a lot of those guys won't be back next year. But let's talk some Badgers, all right? We'll take a quick break, and we'll bring in RJ after these quick words.
community more rewarding every day. Learn how you too can live and serve part-time close to home by visiting nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
So I have been in the operating room most of my career, watching people have orthopedic surgery, watching people get knees replaced, hips replaced, shoulders fixed, and I knew there had to be a better way.
That's Dr. Daniel Zuckerman, a medical director for QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in non-invasive regenerative treatments for pain relief.
I see so many people who could have been helped before they got to the operating room if only they had known about regenerative medicine.
QC Kinetics, a natural alternative that uses your body's own healing properties to help restore and repair damaged joint tissue, providing long-lasting relief without drugs, surgery, or downtime.
Well, it feels great when I do get to see somebody who we help, who I know I kept out of the operating room. It's amazing how we change people's lives without surgery.
Call QC Kinetics for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 715-443-4440. That's 715-443-4440. 715-443-4440.
ServiceMaster of Chippewa Valley is your local expert when it comes to fire and water damage, carpet and air duct cleaning, mold remediation, and trauma. They're when you need them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Trust comes in the yellow truck. Learn more at ServiceMasterChippewaValley.com.
Get ready to save half with half-off deals. It's a great way for you to get goods and services that you will love, and you don't have to pay full price. Start saving this Friday, January 5th, with Paradise Pines Resort and Rays of Soul. Be ready with your credit or debit card and get ready to save with this week's half-off deals. For more details and to find out about all the savings, just go to aroundthe715.com.
More than the scores. More than the news. It's Sports Out the Squeaker. The Dan Kasper Show.
Getting close to wrapping up the college football season after the bowl games from yesterday and such. We know who's in the national championship. Michigan defeating Alabama in overtime. Washington holding off Texas. Also yesterday, the kind of pregame to those games, Badgers, LSU, Badger football having a lead for a big portion of the game. LSU making the comeback and holding on for a victory there, even with Tanner Mordecai throwing it all over the field. Let's recap that loss with our good buddy, Mr. RJ Cardinal. So RJ, Tanner Mordecai, a lot of Badger fans I saw on social media were saying, where was this in the regular season in terms of the passing attack? But I mean, at that same point, did Wisconsin did they have to do something different because Braylon Allen wasn't there, so you had to do something different on offense?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily Braylon Allen being there. You had a month to prepare. LSU's defense is anywhere, depending on the stat you're looking at, 80th to 100th. Before he was injured, you got to remember Wisconsin was 5-1, and he missed a month and came back, and they ended on a 2-game winning streak. So I think it was more or less of a fact that we were looking at a team getting to know each other early on in the season. And yeah, you had a month to prepare for LSU. So I think it's one of those just where we're looking at a team that had time and was prepared and knew each other. So I think it shows how deep the receiving core actually is. I mean, it seemed a little more dynamic than when, it sounds bad to say, forcing DK and who's the other one that left? Why am I blanking on his name already?
You've already moved on, man.
Yeah, already moved on. They moved on from us, so I moved on from them. But it just seemed there was more comfortability there. And we saw Tretch Kakahuna get his first snaps on offense. He had played in 4 games on special teams. But, we saw him look like he can be the solid number 2 behind Will Pauling at the slot receiver spot. If not, put him on the field at the same time. Who knows what we'll see moving forward here? We did see some 5 wide with the game yesterday, and I mean, it's one of those losses. I mean, most people went in thinking they were going to lose by double digits, and you were winning for what they scored with 3:20 left in the game. So, I mean, really, you gave LSU all they could handle for a while there, and that's another one where a lot of their players weren't opting out either, and you were missing 15 total, but when you look at contributors, probably only 10 for Wisconsin, and it was starters. So, I guess you did have Neighbors get his LSU single season receiving record and then say, I'm done. But other than that, really just LSU aided by 2 plays that were out of bounds that directly led to touchdowns, and you take those 14 points off the board, and Wisconsin's winning comfortably. So, it's a game where I don't know if it's because of it doesn't mean anything anymore or what, but it's a game I watched and was okay with.
Do you think we'll see a passing attack like this going into next year? I mean, it's hard because we're going to have a different quarterback, coming in and such, and, new running backs, and Chez Mellusi is going to be back. But could this be a glimpse of maybe something that we potentially could see coming into 2024 for this Badger football team?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. But I mean, like I've said in the past as well, Longo is pretty darn close to likes keeping snap counts even with run to pass. So it's still one of those who really knows what we're going to see here. But I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how your quarterback battle plays out. And I mean, Van Dyke and Mabry Mature were on the sidelines there. And it'll be interesting to see what we have, how the running back group plays out, because you have Chez Mellusi coming back. You just got a commitment from a transfer from Oklahoma. I mean, Jackson Aker and Cade Yakimelli didn't look bad yesterday. Cade Yakimelli got rolled up on, hurt his ankle. But Jackson Aker, toting the rock there, both were averaging over 6 yards a carry. And you got those 3 freshmen coming in. So right now you have a 7 deep running back room, which is pretty unheard of. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we see next year. But yeah, with the quarterback being the key opponent there, it'll be interesting to see what we see coming out of spring ball and fall camp.
I know Aker, I was reading, I think it was Colton Bartholomew's column after the game. There was some talk about maybe potentially a position change with him because of all these running backs that they got coming in, and Chez Mellusi coming back. And they talked about, him maybe being a H-back type of role, because originally he was fullback, then went to running back. Do you think that's a position that he could excel in if they do kind of convert him to a H-back type of role?
Yeah, and I think his most natural position is running back. I mean, he was an All-State, or I think he was All-State his senior year at Verona as a running back, but he is a bigger body. I think I'm not sure if we've seen all the pass catching abilities we've seen from him. I mean, we've seen him on some wheel routes, and he's got good hands, but I mean, a play here and there doesn't always constitute moving to a new position and all that. But I think he has the capability of doing it. Whether it plays out in that fashion or not, we'll see. But in a kind of situation where you don't really have a lead or a fullback in the backfield at any point, and right now your tight end room is about to get a little thinner, and you didn't really use them anyway. It'll be interesting to see moving forward where he does fall. But ultimately, I think running the ball will be where he's most used still.
RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst, joining us here this morning. So, first season of the Luke Fickell in the books, 7-6. I think for a lot of people, at the beginning of the year, if we rewind it, even in the offseason, there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of hope, maybe high expectations for this team overall. How would you assess this season, and what would you tell, or how do you view the future for this program, knowing too that Big Ten's going to get a little bit tougher here with those new teams coming in next year?
Well, I saw a team, especially when you're watching this bowl game, skill position wise, I think we'll be okay at. We did see some new offensive linemen get out there. We really weren't talking about the left tackle much, but Nolan Rucci was playing a majority of that game and looked pretty good over there. We didn't have to hear about him getting called for bringing things back or false starting, like Jack Nelson, who was the most penalized offensive lineman in the nation this past season. But it's a season. I'd still call it a disappointment. You could have had, I'll say 2 more wins. Honestly, you should have beaten Indiana and Northwestern, and especially that Northwestern game you didn't show up for. But I would say put 2 more wins on there. You should have been 9-3 or 9-4 heading into a bowl game. Probably still would have ended up in the same bowl game, but still you got there because your fans travel this year. And I mean, you put up a heck of a fight, and like I said, you were winning for pretty much all the game, and a couple of calls went against you that led directly to touchdowns, that I think even replay shows. And I mean, the commentators were like, well, play-by-play guy wasn't too sure if that touchdown was in or out of bounds, but the color commentator sure made it sound like he knew it was out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
But even the fact that didn't even go to a real review until a timeout was called, and then they didn't want to admit they were wrong. But yeah, I mean, overall, good season. I'd still call it a disappointment based on, what we saw definitely in the Indiana and Northwestern game. And you could probably throw Washington State in there. That should have, you showed up and dominated for the third quarter and then went back into your shell. It's a team that maybe you could say was getting to know each other, but then there's just some inexplicable things that happened that led this team to call themselves out and then do all that, whether it's the clash of the cultures that were created by the previous coaching staff and the current coaching staff. They still had an issue of finishing some games. And I mean, it held true in at least 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll even put the Ohio State game on there. You were hanging with them for a while too, and just didn't finish that game. So, I mean, you look at their losses this year, and that's all 5 of them, and you did not play a 4-quarter game. And I'm not sure you could say in a lot of the games this year they played a 4-quarter game outside of maybe the Minnesota game. But other than that, it's still something that needs to be changed, the attitude of this team for taking the field and, seeing what we saw against LSU. Impose your will. Have the fortitude to look across that line and not be intimidated. And they weren't, but the outcome just didn't come the way they wanted.
Yeah. Switching gears here, or not switching gears yet here, RJ, because this will be the last time I get to talk to you before the game. National champion pick now: Michigan, Washington. Who would you pick in this one? And how do you like this matchup between these two teams?
Well, I'm pretty glad I picked this matchup. I think the last time we talked,
Yep.
I said Michigan and Washington. So it's an all Big Ten final.
Yeah, that's
awesome
true.
to see.
Yeah. Yep.
People around the world have to be upset. It's a game where I'll still go and pick Michigan, solely because, like I said before, that money will be going to the Big Ten Conference. I don't know how the payout is going to happen to the Pac-12 in terms of Washington win it. I guess if they win it, congrats Washington State and and Oregon State. But I think ultimately, until the academic year ends in the last day of June, that'll still probably get dispersed amongst the current Pac-12 teams. So rooting for Michigan, whether it gets stripped or not. They're not going to take the money away from the conference once it gets doled out. So purely improving the conference is why I'm choosing Michigan. And I'll run with the Wolverines, and whatever happens after the season in terms of forfeitures or anything like that, that'll come as it may.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now switching gears over to hoops, because Badgers picked back up their Big Ten portion of the schedule. I mean, they played Michigan State once, but now it's all Big Ten teams here. So the Fighting Fran McCaffreys in Iowa going up against Wisconsin. Wisconsin didn't play this last week, but they moved up to number 21 in the rankings. Now that it's kind of like, I don't know if you view it the same way, but I view it like the second half of the season now fully begins for this Badger basketball team. What would be your biggest question mark for this Badger basketball team as they head into the Big Ten portion of their schedule?
Well, it'll continue to be down low when you go up against better competition, and whatever you want to say about the Big Ten, it is better competition than most of the schedule Wisconsin has faced. There's still the teams like Tennessee, Providence, Marquette, Arizona out there, Virginia, but for the most part, and I'll throw Michigan State out there because that's a conference game, so I'm not including in the out of conference. You're maybe expected to have one more win in your non-conference right now, but overall competition is going to get a little bit tougher. I don't believe too many teams in the Big Ten are ranked right now outside of Purdue, but still uptick in competition. You got to be ready for the physicality of the Big Ten. I know Wisconsin's one that has been in the past, and a lot of people don't like their style of play outside of conference play, even in conference play. But yeah, you got to be ready for a game that you will have to come down to free throws, and we've seen it the past few years where Wisconsin could have pulled away had they made their free throws, and better free throw shooting team this year. You're a game behind Indiana for first place right now, and win tonight, and put yourself in a tie. I'm not sure if Indiana plays tonight or not, if that'll hold true, but really looking forward to seeing what this team can bring in physicality down low against Big Ten teams this year. When past few years we've seen them struggle.
Is it a race for second place in this conference? Ever, a race behind Purdue at this point? Do you think?
Possibly, but I mean, heck, Northwestern beat Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's especially in the Big Ten, any given day, an upset can happen, and outside of the conference might be shocked, but I mean, Northwestern, I think everybody was shocked when they beat Purdue. But also Northwestern 10-2 right now. So it's and one of those is to Chicago State. So I think you could probably look at it that way right now, but I still wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot closer fighting for number one than people may think moving through this conference schedule, because there'll be days when Purdue's not on, and there'll be teams in this conference that at least have some size that can challenge Purdue. I'm not sure if Wisconsin can. We've seen that the past few years where they've gave them a run, but in the end, they just can't hang with Purdue. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens and how that plays out. But I think you're probably safe in saying it's the race for second, but don't be surprised if Purdue falters in a couple games and puts themselves in a situation to not be the number one team in the regular season.
Moving on to hockey here quickly, RJ. Badger men's hockey winning the holiday face-off. They're riding a 9-game winning streak right now, I believe, as they get set to visit Notre Dame coming up at the end of this week. But this Badger men's hockey team, 16-4 overall on the season so far. I mean, can you take away anything from that? I know it was Air Force and Northeastern. They blanked them, 3-0 in both of those games. Can they take away anything from that and use that for maybe the series coming up against Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, you had a couple weeks off there, and still, I mean, you played 19 and 20 days after your last 2 wins. So you had a little bit of time off. You knocked the rust off, and yeah, like you said, 2 3-0 wins. You're 16-4, which you had 14 wins all of last year. I think really what this team needed more so than an influx of talent or anything, because it was there and they held a good recruiting class together. They needed a culture change. And it seems a big thing for Coach Hastings is accountability. And in talking to some people, I don't think that was always there under Granado. There were different rules for different people. And maybe some things that happened off ice that never came to the public eye that ended up being a thing that split the team because people weren't punished for things, or it was very lenient and they didn't miss game time. So I think a culture change was needed, and I think we're seeing that pay off really early, where you're already 2 games ahead of where you finished the season last year, and you got a big chunk of your conference left here, moving into January and February, and hopefully that'll turn into later on down the road. You can avenge some your losses to Michigan State in the last series of the year, but still got a tough Big Ten schedule ahead of you with Lindenwood pigeoned in there somewhere. Not exactly sure where, but it'll be interesting to see how this series goes moving forward. This team goes moving forward, and hopefully you can stay near the top of the Big Ten. And if you don't win it, either regular season or tournament, you make yourself look good enough to get an at-large berth into the NCAA tournament.
All right. Yep. Exactly. So, and then you got the women's side too, who they've been off for a long time, almost a month, man. And yeah, going up against is it Merrimack coming up this weekend in Madison? So, and then St. Thomas after that.
I believe you are correct there.
So,
so hopefully they might have to do a little bit of rebounding here. They've lost 4 of their last 6.
Yeah.
So it'll be not normal for them, but hopefully we can see them. And I mean, that puts them at 14-4. So it's odd to say they're in a lull, but they only have 4 losses on the year. They've just come in a bunch here. So hopefully you get a nice little rebound versus Merrimack and St. Thomas in the next 2 series, and then hop back into a little more competitive teams in the WCHA as you're looking at some tough ones against Minnesota State, Duluth, and St. Cloud after these next 2 series. So hopefully we see a nice bounce back after a break, and we can get things back on track, headed towards hopefully a WCHA championship and another postseason appearance for them.
All right, he's RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst. Dude, appreciate the time. Happy New Year too, buddy.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Absolutely. So you have a good rest of your week, man, and we'll catch up with you next Tuesday when we recap that national championship with you.
Sounds good. We will talk to you then.
You got it. There you go. There's RJ Cardinal joining us here for a little bit this morning. Let's take our final break, and we'll be back to wrap up things after these few words. Wrapping things up, let's do our picks and predicts, brought to you by the Elbow Room. Looking somewhere to maybe catch the games this weekend. Saturday games, got Sunday games. Head on over to the Elbow Room where they also have Man Cave Lights. Let's take a look at. We got some basketball games we're going to be picking here. NBA schedule, not a ton of games, but we got a good one, interesting one between the Celtics and OKC. Celtics number 1 in the Eastern Conference, visiting OKC, who's number 2 in the Western Conference. The lines, they've got Boston favored by 3.5. Oklahoma City 13-5 at home so far this year. Every single loss that Boston has had this year has been on the road. 26-6 overall, but 10-6 on the road. That being said, I'm still going to take Boston, and I think Boston covers tonight. They win by at least 4 points. Let's pick some college basketball games before we do the Badger and Hawkeye one. We got Northwestern taking on number 9 Illinois. Northwestern 10-2 so far this year. Illinois also 10-2. Illinois only favored by 5.5 in this game. I'm going to take the Fighting Illini. Illini, Greg, if you're listening, and I'm taking your Fighting Illini. I do think they cover. I think they win by at least 6 points tonight. So, and then we got Syracuse, who's 10-3 so far on this season, going up against number 14 Duke, who is 9-3. Duke is favored by the latest looks like 14.5. I'll take Duke, but I don't think they cover. I don't think they win by at least 15 points. So I'll take Duke, but they do not cover. And then we've got Badgers taking on the Hawkeyes in Madison, number 21 Wisconsin Badgers, 9-3 so far on the season. Iowa 8-5, 0-2 in conference play already. Iowa this year has been averaging 87.8 points per game on offense, but they've been allowing 77.2. Wisconsin 74.2 points per game. They've been scoring, but only averaging 64.9 points against. Wisconsin favored by 5.5. It opened up at 7.5, but it's went down to 5.5. I think Wisconsin wins, and I do think they cover. I think they win by at least 6 points in tonight's contest. So that's your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room. Wrapping things up here. We only got a few minutes left. I will text the winners right now for your What's Your Beef winners. I will text you. So if you are a winner, keep an eye on your texting lines out there. The Raise Place What's Your Beef winners. And don't forget, you want to go use that certificate so you can get your free hot beef and ham sandwich before it expires next month. All right. So winners already. If you've got one still sitting in your pocket, you better head on over to Raise. All right. Better head on over there. So what do we got? So we got the Badger game tonight, 6 p.m. tip-off. See if Wisconsin can pick up their 10th win of the season to improve to 10-0, but also improving to 2-0 in conference play. Indiana right now 2-0 in conference play. Illinois, Northwestern, Wisconsin all at 1-0. Then you got a group at 1-1. As we mentioned, Iowa's 0-2 along with Michigan State at 0-2. Elsewhere, no Bucks action tonight after their game last night, so they'll be back at it tomorrow night, taking on the Pacers. It seems like they've been playing the Pacers a lot so far this year, and they have. But they'll start a little bit of a road trip tomorrow: Indiana, San Antonio, Houston, before returning home for 4 games starting next Monday against Utah. But they got that Boston game next Thursday. Circle that one on your calendar for sure. Taking a look at that Bucks and Celtics one, because I think a lot of people are just assuming that's going to be the Eastern Conference Finals matchup, a preview of the Eastern Conference Finals matchup. So tomorrow it is a stock report Wednesday. So whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling? All right. Think about that for a little bit and play along with us on who is your stock riser and stock faller. talked a lot of green and gold here this morning. Packers should be back at practice tomorrow as they get ready to prepare for the Chicago Bears. I think we're all kind of like crossing our fingers and hoping that this team will be fairly healthy. I know Jaden Reed left that game with re-aggravating his chest injury. Apparently Christian Watson is hoping that he can give her a go and play in the game on Sunday. But hopefully that injury report isn't too bad. Hopefully Aaron Jones is okay too. I know he had that knee injury in the game, but he ended up still finishing off the game. A.J. Dillon had a stinger. Hopefully he's okay too, but might take all hands on deck to get this victory on Sunday against the Chicago Bears there. So we'll talk more about that game as we get closer and closer to it. But Packers should return to practice tomorrow, and we'll have a good idea, maybe initial idea at least, of where everybody's at in terms of the injury report and such. So we'll hit that up tomorrow. We also got another segment or another episode or another, how do we want to phrase? Not an episode. It's a segment, I guess. Business and sports. We'll hit that up tomorrow as well. So we'll get to that. And obviously we'll recap Badger hoops and take a look at some Bucks basketball as they go up against the Pacers too. But kind of looking at a lot of your texts this morning, I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if but it seems like a lot of you, majority of you, feeling good about this Packer game going up against the Bears. A lot of you feeling confident. A lot of you feeling like it's going to be a W. Also, a lot of you though too, saying that I'm actually kind of surprised a little bit that a lot of you have said, regardless of what happens, if it's a win or a loss, you view this season as a solid season, thumbs up, success. And you're looking at it in terms of, I think, offense looks good. Jordan Love's probably the big reason why a lot of people would view this season as a success, regardless of what happens on Sunday. And I think you're cautiously optimistic, or maybe very optimistic, about what the future holds. We'll probably hit this up quite a bit yet this week. I think it would be beneficial for this team if they were able to punch their ticket in the postseason, for these youngsters to kind of get that experience in the postseason, get that early, get that taste in their mouth of that postseason run. They might get waxed in the first round depending on who they play. But just to get that experience for these young guys right away, I think could be a very beneficial thing for this team for the immediate future. But let's take care of business first. As Matt LaFleur said, that game against Minnesota means nothing if they can't take care of business against Chicago. And you know Chicago would love nothing more than to come into Lambeau and end Green Bay season. You know that. I just hope that Lambeau Field is not full of blue and orange in that stadium. Unless it's blaze orange and you're a Packers fan and that's the only cold weather gear you have. Okay? Let's make sure that's a home crowd over there in Green Bay. All right? All right. New year kicked off. First episode of the new year in. Have a good rest of your day. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, just past 6. Talk to you then.